Revelation 21, verses 1 through 8, King James. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them. And they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them, and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, Behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, It is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.
But everyone today, if they really sit down, let their hair down, and peel grapes on this subject, we all know that deep in our bellies we sense we're in transition. Something is changing vastly in our human scene. We don't know what it is exactly. Something is changing. Life is no longer a continuum. We don't know the past very well. We are afraid of the future, and the present is confusing. And we're in change. We know that. And we don't know what's going to happen. And we are afraid. And then overshadowing that are the various myths that we've had in the past, as well as a few more that are just belonging to the future and are going to frighten us and cause us a lot of nightmares. But I think that's the dynamic is this. It's this uncertainty. It's not merely economic uncertainty, it's political uncertainty. It's the uncertainty of morals, the uncertainty about marriage, the uncertainty about heterosexuality and homosexuality, the uncertainty about disease. There's a great uncertainty with all our science, with all the perfection of our methods. We are now more uncertain about basic things than we ever were before.
We're already at, $14 trillion, $300 billion away from hitting the cap.
Foreclosures are still out of sight.
Foreclosures, a record amount this 2010, projected another record amount, $3 trillion underwater with public pensions. California alone, $550 billion. Meredith Whitney says at least 100, there may be as much as 100 bond defaults, municipal bond defaults. Cities and states are bankrupt. They're considering allowing bankruptcy of the states so they can get out of their pension payments. We're printing $75 billion a month. Now, let's futurecast here. In the end of June, it's June 30th, we're all sitting around at the Treasury and say, okay, let's put our debt out to the world. Who's going to buy our debt at $75 billion a month? And QE2 is not going to end. Here's another thing. It would have been cheaper for us to just go ahead and take the banks to receivership. William Black, professor of economics, University of Missouri, Kansas City, former bank regulator, expert in white-collar crime, said, hey, he wants Bank of America to be taken to receivership. We just gave Bank of America, Tim Geithner, $127 billion free pass at Freddie Mac for possible and likely buybacks of the toxic mortgage debt they shoved into Freddie Mac. You think Citi and J.P. Morgan and Morgan Stanley and every other big bank that shoved toxic debt into Fannie and Freddie, you think they'll want the same deal? But we've had a major change in the economy. The government is according to the president of Trim Tabs, Charles Biederman, he says that the government, QE2, is supporting the stock market. They said that on Christmas Eve. I don't know how. Hey, you know what? A friend of mine who declared bankruptcy said, "Hey, listen, if I knew I could just charge my way out of bankruptcy, I would have done it. I would just got my credit cards out, and I would have just put it on my credit card and charged my way out of bankruptcy." When do we pay the piper? We rewarded the incompetent bankers. We bailed them out. They're over in Davos partying, and then meanwhile, we're going to ask every union guy, which they probably need to take a hit anyway, to take a hit, while Jamie Dimon and Lloyd Blankfein are knocking down multi-million-dollar bonuses. Let me tell you about the stock market. It's being propped up by quantitative easing, according to TrimTab's president. Corporate profits are way up because they laid off millions of people, and the economy is growing again. We just had a record bankruptcies, and we're expecting another million-plus bankruptcies a year. Please tell me how the economy is revving up. How is it doing well? Unemployment, is it true unemployment?
Would you rather have the stock market like crash? Would that be preferable for you? I mean, when you've got a stock market approaching 12,000.
The truth is the government
it looks like it's got some legs. They're not short selling this market right now. It's progressively moving up.
The government is propping it up.
The government always props it up. It has to prop it up.
Take the blue pill. Listen, we're talking about the truth here, not management of perception economics, not spin. The government is propping up the stock market. The government is supplying 95% of the mortgages in this country. That's a fact.
But that's what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have been doing for years.
They are bankrupt. They represent about a $6 trillion liability to the country.
The propping up has got to collapse everything.
And I say that one day is going to start just after the 30th of June, when everybody has the OS moment that says, either we stop it and it crashes, or we go into QE3 and people sell the dollar en masse. And we have hyperinflation. And I'll tell you two things that never happened in the Great Depression. Two things. The dollar was never questioned, and the credit rating of the United States was never questioned.
Never questioned.
And do you think
we
that's
were on
true
the gold
now?
standard back then.
Yeah, we were. We were on the gold standard.
We were backed by gold. And
you know what, Harry Schultz, the newsletter writer, 87 years old, he worked in the real world, not in the academic world, real world, buying and selling stocks, making investments, and writing a newsletter for more than 40 years. Let me read what he said, okay? This is his last newsletter, just happened at the end of this year. He said, Harry Schultz, roughly speaking, the mess we're in now is the worst since the 17th century financial collapse. Comparison with the 30s are ludicrous. We've gone far beyond that. And alas, the courage and political will to recognize the mess and act wisely to reverse gears is absent in U.S. leadership, where the problems were hatched and where the rot is by far the deepest. We are rewarding the bankers, the incompetents, and our leaders, our elected officials, are covering it over.
When we look back to Weimar hyperinflation, we see a process where hyperinflation was foisted upon the people of Germany. There's nothing unclear about it. There are no doubts. It was done, and everything that could have prevented it was removed, and the nation was destroyed. Can we honestly say that 50 years from now, when we look back on today, that we did not know that hyperinflation was being imposed on our country and the world? Can we say we didn't know that the result of massive money printing, while taking down all the productive powers of our citizens and cutting off the imagination from the space program and NWAPA, can we say we didn't know this would destroy our country? Either we've been stupid or complicit in essentially tearing down the United States. And from the standpoint of a bleak future, people will surely know it was intentional.
October 24th, 1950, on cooperative disarmament. And I'm going to excerpt paragraphs out of his speech, and I quote, this is directly out of the mouth of President Harry Truman. I quote, disarmament is the course which the United States would prefer to take. It is the course which most nations would like to adopt. It is the course which the United Nations from its earliest beginnings has been seeking to follow. First, the plan must include all kinds of weapons. Outlawing any particular kind of weapon is not enough. The conflict in Korea bears tragic witness to the fact that aggression, whatever the weapons used, brings frightful destruction. Second, the plan must be based on unanimous agreement. A majority of nations is not enough. No plan of disarmament can work unless it includes every nation having substantial armed forces. One-sided disarmament is a sure invitation to aggression. Third, the plan must be foolproof. If real disarmament were achieved, the nations of the world, acting through the United Nations, could join in a greatly enlarged program of mutual aid. As the cost of maintaining armaments decreased, every nation could greatly increase its contributions to advancing human welfare. All of us could then pool even greater resources to support the United Nations in its war against want. End quote. Harry Truman, ladies and gentlemen, was a 33rd degree Freemason of the southern jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite. In September of 1950, this article appeared in The New Age. The New Age is the magazine of the House of the Temple of the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. And I remind you again, Harry Truman was a 33rd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite. Harry Truman created the United Nations. Harry Truman put us on the track to world government. Harry Truman knew what he was doing. Harry Truman did it on purpose. Listen to this. And listen to the deception that's being foisted upon the world, especially what are known as minorities. Quote, God's plan is dedicated to the unification of all races, religions, and creeds. This plan, dedicated to the new order of things, is to make all things new. A new nation, a new race, a new civilization, and a new religion, a non-sectarian religion that has already been recognized and called the religion of the great light, end quote. This is right out. I'm quoting directly from the magazine, which was then called The New Age. It is the magazine of the House of the Temple of the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, and what they propose is simply treason. At the highest level of all these fraternal organizations lies the body of the secret organization known as the Illuminati. The Illuminati created communism. They created international socialism. They are working for one world government. Here it is in their own words. Let me read it to you again. Quote, God's plan is dedicated to the unification of all races, religions, and creeds. This plan, dedicated to the new order of things, is to make all things new. A new nation. They're not talking about the United States, folks. They're not talking about going out and finding some land and making a new country. They're talking about a new nation. The world united under one world government. Let me make sure you understand this. Quote, God's plan is dedicated to the unification of all races, religions, and creeds. This plan, dedicated to the new order of things, is to make all things new. A new nation, a new race, a new civilization, and a new religion. A non-sectarian religion that has already been recognized and called the religion of the great light. End quote. What is this religion of the great light? See, I don't even like to say it. My tongue doesn't like it. What is this religion of the great light? Well, I've spent countless hours over the last 4.5 years teaching you exactly what it is. It is the Luciferian philosophy, ladies and gentlemen. It's exactly what they believe, is that man was held prisoner in the Garden of Eden by an unjust, vindictive God. And man was set free by Lucifer through his agent Satan when he seduced Eve into eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and told Eve that God lied to you. God lied to you, Eve, and you must entice Adam to also eat of this fruit. For God doesn't want you to realize exactly who you are. You see, he says, if you eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, ye will surely die. And I tell you, you will not die, but you will become as gods. That's Satan talking. And anyone in any church or in any religion who believes that, believes in Satan's church, and their God is Lucifer. Lucifer is the angel of light that was cast out of heaven because he wanted to sit on the throne above God. Remember that? These people who believe this, these Illuminists, believe that through the gift of intellect, which they received from Lucifer, they themselves will become gods.
In very simple language, Michael, in very simple language, and it requires a lot of explanation after that, here's the way it works. In this world, of man, this cosmos, there are just two main forces, God and evil, personified in Satan and Lucifer. And finally, since everything is being globalized today, evil itself is globalized. And what before was practiced by small communities and small sections of communities, small little groups, covens, as we used to call them, is now becoming the way of life and the way of thought of whole populations, according as their morals and ethics are completely degraded and reduced to materialistic terms and hedonistic aims and totally this world view of things. And that is the reign of evil, and it is directly in contravention to the reign willed by God, who is the sovereign creator and master of all things. So that's the situation today. The evil is, no doubt about it, more organized, more globalized, and it comes out in the new age, which is the deification of man. People actually are possessed by Satan or Lucifer or one of the demons.
But we're not to expect them to behave like Linda Blair in the movie, like you said.
No, that's a bit sort of, that was, Hollywood. No, this is far more frightening. It's far more devastating. It ruins families. And then you must remember, Michael, that in this country, as in Europe, but in this country especially since we're talking about it, there are families in which Satanism descends by bloodlines ever since the Plymouth Rock.
Okay, now let's go here with this.
Yes.
Can you compare Satanism or people that practice Satanism?
Yes.
Does it always cross over with demonic possession?
Of course it does.
What is the dynamic of that?
The dynamic of it is the communication of power by Satan or Lucifer, or both.
So if you have someone who is possibly demonically possessed, they might demonstrate the ability to move furniture or...
much more effective than that, to be successful in Wall Street, to succeed in business.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Lucifer and Satan, the demons, help people to succeed in their way, provided they do their will, provided they do their manifest will. They give them power over people.
And what are devils? Devils are those angels who went with Lucifer.
And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heavens, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Semjasa, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swear they all together, and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were in all 200.
Since 1947, which is the year of the flying saucer in Roswell, Hollywood has been promoting a romantic fantasy idea of angels coming down and falling in love with human women. For example, 1947, some of you may remember this, maybe not, you're old enough to have seen it, but to have seen it on TV, The Bishop's Wife, Cary Grant and Loretta Young, where Cary Grant plays a dapper angel. And guess what happens? He falls in love with a human woman. Imagine that. Then in 1987, 40 years later, we have Wings of Desire, which is a European movie, which has an angel fall for a human woman. Then, just so nobody feels left out, we have the movie, same year, 87, Date with an Angel, in which a gorgeous blonde female angel gives up her angelic nature to fall in love with a human male. Then we have the thing you see up there, The Preacher's Wife, which is basically a remake of The Bishop's Wife. And in this case, we have the handsome Denzel Washington, who everybody is like, yeah, he's really good looking. Probably better looking than Cary Grant, in fact. And he nearly breaks up a preacher's marriage because he's, you know, having thoughts about the preacher's wife and actually courts her because the preacher is too busy being a preacher. Then we have Prophecy 2 in 1998. Here, a good angel assumes human form and to sire a child by a mortal woman to save humanity from the fallen archangel Gabriel's evil plans. Excuse me, chapter and verse on that one. And then most recently, as far as I know, The City of Angels in 1998, which is a remake of Wings of Desire. Notice how Hollywood has so few new ideas, with high-octane stars like Meg Ryan and Nicolas Cage. And all of these are, what are they doing? They're promoting the idea of, oh, you know, human women are so sexy and so beautiful that if an angel comes down here, he's just going to trip all over his wings and harp and fall head over heels for this woman. You know, is this just Hollywood being romantic, or is there a more sinister agenda here?
The Black-Eyed People modern mythology is riddled with unexplained phenomenon, but to this day I haven't run into anything quite as unexplainable as the Black-Eyed People. In most cases, a human-looking being with pure black eyes, including the normally white parts, will approach a person at their home or car, asking to be let in. They usually have a very dry personality, almost no personality at all, unless they are told that they can't come in, to which they get very agitated. Most people describe a feeling of intense dread and fear when in the presence of these black-eyed beings, but they can't say exactly why. In every case, the Black-Eyed People must get permission to enter a home or a car. They cannot come in without an invitation, even if they want to. In one case, a young man reported a girl trying to get in through a doorway but was stopped by some invisible force when he wouldn't give her permission to enter. Anyone who is familiar with vampire mythology will recognize that the invitation to come in is a classic trait of the vampire. So what are these black-eyed people? Some think they are demons taking the form of humans in order to steal someone's soul. Others think they are vampires, looking to take someone's blood or energy. Another explanation is that they are alien life forms, trying to fit into society, and possibly find a place to live. All are as reasonable an explanation as the other. There are demonic traits, vampiric traits, and even alien traits to all of those stories, but not a lot of direct evidence to support any of them.
Here's the deal. It's the vampire code. I'm not saying they're literal vampires. They're psychic vampires. A vampire must trick you to invite them into your house. So they'll show up, not bearing their fangs at night, and knock and say, I'm a neighbor. Mind if I come in? And you've got to say, you are welcome. Or the vampire in mythology all over the world, this archetypal, and they use allegories for these archetypal things to explain it to people. But whether it was Greece or Japan or the Mesoamerican Mayan culture, the vampires always came and said, do you invite me into your home? Am I invited? And it's a trick. But they've got to do it. It's like their religion, and you've got to say, yes, you are invited. Once you've let them in, and it's a spiritual thing. It's like Lindsay said, we've let the spirit of China in. We've underwritten it. We've confirmed it. We will now go under it. We will now live as they do. Once you submit to something, once you join with it, it's kind of like Saruman in Lord of the Rings is saying, we must join Gandalf with Mordor. It is, the new age is upon us. And he says, since when did Saruman the Wise, give up reason for madness? And that's what this is. They are all over the news. We must join with authoritarianism. It's good. We must join with the torture. And so a lot of these people, too, even though they've been high-powered, they still are dual. They don't like what's happening, but they like the power, plus they're in it to survive and win. I'm sorry, I'm going wild here, but explaining their psychology. And so they enjoy it. It's an entertainment for them, like a cat has a mouse playing with it before it eats it, but they also believe almost in like a demonic chivalry. And what do they do in chivalry? They say, on guard. You know, on guard, on guard, on guard, I'm about to attack you. On guard. And so they're saying, on guard, we're going to set up world government and kill you. On guard. Here's all the Rockefeller foundations. We're putting poisons in your vaccines. On guard. And then they say, look at these idiots. We tell them we're killing them, and they still won't stand up and fight. They want to die. They are profane. And then elitists call me and say, off record, can we talk? And I'm a journalist, a person. I don't, betray confidence unless it was of a specific crime. Then I would have to. And they say, Alex, the general public wants to be slaves. Don't you understand? You have to join with the New World Order because we understand that. You know, we're moral. We actually work together. The profane, they don't. This is all Illuminati type stuff, folks.
Calling out around the world. Are you ready for a brand new beat? Summer's here and the time is right for dancing in the streets, dancing in Chicago, down in New Orleans, in New York City. All we need is music, sweet music. There'll be music everywhere. There'll be swinging, swaying, records playing, dancing in the street. Oh, it doesn't matter what you wear, just as long as you are there. So come on, every guy, grab a girl. Everywhere around the world they'll be dancing, dancing in the street. It's an invitation across the nation, a chance for folks to meet. They'll be laughing and singing and music swinging, dancing in the street, Philadelphia, PA, Baltimore and DC now. Don't forget the Motor City, on the streets of Brazil. Back in the USSR, no matter where you are, all we need is music, sweet music. There'll be music everywhere. There'll be swinging, swaying, records playing, dancing in the street. Oh, it doesn't matter what you wear, just as long as you are there. So come on, every guy, grab a girl. Everywhere around the world they'll be dancing, dancing in the streets. Way down in LA, every day, dancing in the streets. Crossing China too, me and you, dancing in the street. Don't you know they'll be dancing, dancing in the street.